42 pirates tried to hold America's economy for ransom and were answered by a storm of fire over the horizon. They believed in the power of the swarm, a lesson learned from nature, where overwhelming numbers can crush isolation, where chaos can shatter routine. 42 boats, an extensive fleet of desperation and greed, materializing from the heat haze to encircle a lone titan of commerce, a U.S.-flagged Maersk container ship. They saw a fat, slow-moving target, a floating bank vault. They thought they saw an easy payday. They thought their chaotic, screaming wave of fiberglass and fire would be enough to force a surrender. They were about to discover that even a merchant vessel flying the stars and stripes is protected by a long, unforgiving reach. The MV Liberty Star, a colossal Maersk container ship laden with thousands of boxes of commercial goods, moved with a slow, ponderous grace across the azure expanse of the Indian Ocean. Its sheer size was its own kind of defense, a floating city block of steel that seemed to defy the waves it rode. To the crew, it was another day on the long haul between continents, a routine of maintenance, navigation, and watches. The ship was armed only with high-pressure fire hoses and a small dedicated security team of former Marines, a deterrent for opportunistic attacks, not a full-scale military force. But in these dangerous waters, the illusion of safety is paper thin. The first warning came from the lookout high on the bridge wing. His voice, initially calm, sharpened with alarm over the radio. Contact, multiple contacts, bearing 270, dozens of small craft. They're moving fast, not responding to hails. On the bridge, the captain, a grizzled veteran of 30 years at sea, grabbed his binoculars. The horizon was no longer a clean line between sea and sky. It was a dark, shimmering smear, a cloud of wasps converging on its position. The number was staggering. 42 boats. This was unprecedented. This was no random act of piracy. It was a calculated, massive-scale assault planned by a warlord with ambitions to control the shipping lane. Their strategy was psychological and physical overwhelm. The first wave of the fastest skiffs raced ahead, their occupants firing Kalashnikovs and RPGs into the air and water around the Liberty Star's bow, a terrifying display meant to shock and intimidate. The second wave moved to flank the massive ship, their goal to surround it completely and prevent any evasive maneuver. The third and largest wave, consisting of larger vessels with boarding ladders and grappling hooks, followed close behind, their intent clear. They planned to swarm the deck from all sides simultaneously. The sheer number of attackers made the standard defense protocol seem hopelessly inadequate. The security team, brave and professional, took up positions, but the math was terrifyingly against them. On the bridge, the captain didn't panic. His hand went not to the ship's wheel, but to a secure satellite communication terminal bolted to the console. This wasn't a standard distress call. It was a dedicated, encrypted line that bypassed all civilian channels. He pressed the alert button, sending a burst transmission of his GPS coordinates and a single-word priority code: Tripoli. It was the same code used by the Navy centuries before, a direct line to the modern-day descendants of Stephen Decatur. The pirates, seeing the ship slow and the defensive hoses spraying impotently, cheered. They believed they had won. They were swarming the hull, throwing grapnels, and preparing to ascend. They had no idea that their celebration was being watched from hundreds of miles away, or that their chaos had just triggered a response from unimaginable precision and power. 1,000 miles away in the Combined Maritime Forces headquarters in Bahrain, the Tripoli alert flashed on a main screen. The response was immediate and devoid of debate. The order was clear. Execute Operation Guardian Oath. All assets weapons free. Protect the asset. The Liberty Star was more than a ship. It was a vital node in the global supply chain, and an attack on it was an attack on American economic security. The response wasn't coming from a nearby warship. It was coming from the sky. The first thing the pirates heard was a high-pitched scream that grew from a whisper to a deafening roar in seconds. Two FA-18E Super Hornets operating from the USS Eisenhower streaked over the Liberty Star at 500 feet, their afterburners lighting up the sky. They didn't fire a shot. Their first pass was a show of force, a thunderous announcement that the calculus had just changed irrevocably. The pirates on the water looked up, their faces frozen in confusion and dawning terror. The Hornets peeled away, and a new, more sinister sound took over. The steady, rhythmic thumping of rotor blades, not from one or two helicopters, but from 4 MH-60R Seahawks that emerged opposite direction. They were not here to negotiate. As the lead helicopter hovered, a door gunner opened up with a GAU-21 50 caliber machine gun. But he wasn't aiming at the boats. He was aiming at the water just meters ahead of the lead pirates. The massive rounds impacted the sea like cannonballs, sending plumes of water and steam into the air. The international signal for stop now. The pirates, stunned and disoriented, ignored it. Some even raised their rifles to fire at the helicopters. That was their final mistake. The captain of the lead Seahawk spoke calmly over the radio. Guardian Actual, be advised, targets are weapons hot, engaging. What happened next was not a battle. It was a systemic dismantling. The helicopters broke formation, each engaging a sector around a massive container ship. The 50 cal machine gun spoke again, this time with lethal intent. They didn't spray, they fired controlled, precise bursts. The target was always the same, the outboard engines of the pirate skiffs. One by one, the screaming engines were silenced, transformed into shattered metal. Skiffs that moments before were charging forward now drifted dead in the water, circling aimlessly. The second wave attempting to flee was met by the Hornets, which had now circled back. A single strafing run of their 20mm rotary cannons sent a line of explosive rounds across the bow of the largest pirate mothership, shredding it and setting its fuel drums on fire. The explosion was massive, a fireball that lit up the afternoon sky and sent a shockwave across the water. The chaos was now entirely one-sided. The pirate swarm had been transformed into a killing field. The third wave, seeing the annihilation of their comrades, turned and tried to flee in every direction, but there was no escape. The helicopters hunted them down, disabling their engines with surgical precision. The once proud armada was now a scattered mess of dead boats, burning wreckage, and desperate men treading water. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. When the last skiff was neutralized, the Seahawks took up a protective orbit around the Liberty Star. A voice came over the bridge radio. Liberty Star, this is Guardian Actual. Situation is secure. Do you require medical assistance? The captain, watching from the scene of devastation below, could only reply, "Negative, Guardian, and thank you." The aftermath was a lesson in American resolve. The pirates who survived were pulled from the water by the helicopter's rescue hoists. They were zip-tied, searched, and medevaced to the awaiting brig on the Eisenhower. There would be no catch and release, no return to shore minus fuel. They would face justice in a federal court. The message was clear and deliberate. The MV Liberty Star, its hull scarred but its cargo secure, adjusted its course and continued its journey. A testament to the fact that the American flag does not just represent a nation, but a promise of protection that stretches to the farthest corners of the globe. This was more than a defense. It was a declaration of a new reality. It was a demonstration that the American economic security is non-negotiable, and that the tools to protect it are ever present, even if unseen. The strength of the United States is not just in its standing armies, but in its ability to project power instantly and decisively to any point on the globe. The pirates believed their numbers and audacity could create chaos that would lead to a quick ransom. They learned in the most final way possible that true chaos is not the product of disorder, but the application of overwhelming, precise force that shatters an enemy's will in moments. To every adversary watching on every ocean, the sea may be vast, but there's no target you can touch that is beyond our reach. You may try to bring the chaos, but we will always answer with the storm, and we will always win.